Yeah, I think this is like day 63 or something. I don't know. I'm not counting anymore. But like the question is how do you avoid being in the friend zone of how do you avoid being friend zone in like the job interview for the final round? Actually, this actually goes back to a lot of like it has a lot of correlation between this and actually like product manager salaries too, because like product manager salaries is really an indicator of confidence, is really an indicator of confidence in the candidate, right? And that also has a lot to do with like your ability to present that you're the right candidate on the product manager interview. So there's a lot of correlation between high product manager salary, response time from final round to offer letter, and then your
Mhm.
start. What you should always go out there and focus on is more of the, is what I actually talk about in the main program so much is focus more on the needs of the hiring managers to avoid getting friend zoned and to actually
Mm.
give yourself the best chance of actually getting the highest product manager salary that there is. The reason for that is what hiring managers have to really, I would say, kind of the conversation they have to wrestle in their head. That's why like I record all these sessions for people to kind of like click is the first thing they think about is onboarding time. So instead of thinking about how to get a yes, you have to think about all the reasons why they're just going to say no to you. The number
Yeah.
one thing that they're going to say no to you is like onboarding time. If they feel like I have a shorter onboarding time with this person versus another person, they're almost always going to hire the other person. And the
Hmm.
reason for that is going to be this. They're not really trying to work that hard. Time that it takes for them to onboard you, I don't care if it's like we've gotten people into like Goldman Sachs, Google, Nike, uh, everywhere that you can imagine. Nobody wants to improve the onboarding experience. We're guilty of it as AF at Product Gym too. It's like, oh my gosh, we're starting tomorrow. Yeah, it's been 2 weeks, man. I've been telling you. Well, I mean, I guess middle of March, right? It's like, yeah, you interviewed on the last end of February. So anybody that has like less onboarding time, they are always going to go with that person. So great questions to ask from the very beginning to show that you have like, I would say, kind of like the EQ part of the job because people talk a lot like
Hmm.
people get so much stressed out about like oh product sense. It's like no, you need to have the emotional sense, right?
Hmm.
Like you know, and you should ask one of the power questions that I'm actually coming out with. The part one out of the part four series, this one the one that I just dropped out about the cheat codes, that was all about all the hacks, all the tips, all the tricks about getting more PM interviews on the calendar. The second one that
Yeah.
I'm working on is actually like, okay, now how do we convert those interviews into offers? Part three is about how to convert those
Mhm.
offers into big, big offers. And then the fourth one is like the new way of getting rich in product management. But the
Mhm.
first, I'd say, power question that you want to ask is, what do you visualize to be the most difficult part about onboarding a new product manager for this role to get the person to be able to perform the job the way that you need them to perform the job? Because you want them to give you all of those barriers of like, okay, so we got like four active roadmaps that's going on right now,
Mhm.
which I'm responsible for. The other two we're hoping for this person to take on. And my biggest barrier, you want them to give you all of those problems up front, just front, right, and center. Then the next thing that they have to go out there and wrestle with is like, how much value are you actually going to add to the problem that we're trying to solve right now? And this is actually where
Mhm.
you got to bring out some really good examples of either you being able to solve a problem that's very similar in your previous job. So if they feel like, well, we think this other person here is going to do a better job solving the onboarding problem, minimizing customer onboarding time. We feel like this person here, we're trying to go into the subscription model right now. And we feel like Annalisa has a background with subscriptions. This is actually like, or we feel like, okay, we are trying to integrate AI into our e-commerce platform. And this person has an
Mhm.
e-commerce background and an AI platform. So we feel like this person has the best, are giving us our best chance of actually solving this problem. pre-recession, tech recession, it's just like if she doesn't work out for us or if he doesn't work out for us, that's totally fine. Now it's just like when we're making a hire, we're thinking, is this person going to actually add value into actually helping us keep our jobs? So they
Yeah.
end up on one of these calls, which is actually why I started live streaming all these calls because I was like, it doesn't even matter anymore because it's just like, we only have so much food on the table. So if we're going to ration it out for one more person to eat with us, we want to give ourselves is that going to give us the best chance of like hunting the next bull so we make it through the next quarter? Because that's what product managers are playing for right now. It's just the next quarter.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to the job right now feeling bulletproof.
Yeah.
Nobody's feeling
Uh-huh.
everybody's getting there. It's kind of sad that like people are as numb to like if people are getting laid off this Friday, people are as numb to it now as hearing about another airplane go down. Because we just
Mm.
hear it so often that it's live.
Like
I mean, it's not
normal.
stopping anybody from getting on
Yeah.
planes, right? It's kind of sad, but people are like very well aware and people are actually making YouTube videos like they're just like relieved that like finally I've been like I'm gonna just go to Mexico for a week and like before I start job hunting, but like, nobody's really feeling like nobody feel like this concept of job security. They're feeling as secure about their job as they are about hopping on a Boeing flight. So it's just like, okay, we need to make a decision right now about whether or not you're going to be able to help us solve this problem, or should we just save
Mhm.
that money and get ourselves another 45 days on the payroll and try to solve this thing ourselves? The
Yeah.
problem, which is actually, this is where a lot of people actually get into the friend zone because nobody goes to level three. The third problem is if the problem that we are trying to solve changes, do we feel like this is the right person? So this is actually where a lot of people run into mistakes. And this is actually why I tell people to, when they're mock interview calls with the mock interview partners, you guys have to be interviewing on personality. And this is why I started live streaming these calls and people started getting more interviews and offers is because like, well, if the market changes, if there's a deep seek, if Canada hits us with 25% tariffs and they're like, let's go to war. And then all of a sudden it's like we got to change our business model up. Like that's why like so much of like, when product managers coming into our program now, they're like, well, Rich, I have 5 years of product. Oh, you mean you have a 5 year successful track record of when the market was good? Because that doesn't matter anymore. Because that
Mhm.
proven game plan went out the door, and that's why your company laid you off because all the things that you guys were doing that worked are no longer working. And you
Yeah.
don't know what executive order Papa Bear is going to sign next. So what you're working with that comes with a few things, right? So how do you go
Mhm.
ahead and actually convince somebody that we don't even know if what we're working on right now is going to be what we're going to be working on in 4 days from now. So this is
Mhm.
why on the interview, you have to show how comfortable you are with change. And this is actually why booking so many interviews on your calendar is so important because number one, it gives you a backup just in case anything goes wrong and expect
Mhm.
to go wrong. Like they say, my cousin was in the Marine Corps and I think he got like himself an extra 50 push-ups because like they're like your weapon will jam when you need it the most. And they're like, you think this is funny? But it's true. Like, things will go south on you. You got to be positive about life, but on the job hunt, you have to be the ultimate cynic. Like
Yeah.
you expect things
Mhm.
to go wrong. So having that batch of interviews, that's why I released a cheat code video of like
Mhm.
constantly flushing yourself is like you have to have backups and you naturally have a sense of confidence when you have more options. So they feel like I felt good talking about to her just because other people, they're just like feeling so desperate. So, like, yo,
Yeah.
if shit
Mhm.
goes south 3 days from now. I don't know if I even want to be working with this person because the vibe that you offer is also very important. If I'm feeling
Yeah.
stressed out just talking to you right now because you
Hmm.
really need a job, I don't like I'm already feeling stressed out without this interaction. So you cannot be bringing in, you cannot be introducing more stress that I don't already need. So like that's
Hmm.
you pack it up and then you have like that's why our people it's kind of messed up that like it's like people that are getting offers, they tell people that they're getting offers in our program and they end up getting more offers. The people that need offers are getting more offers, and the people that need a job aren't even getting interviews, right? But that's kind of how the world works. Like the restaurant that has a line, and you're like, oh,
That's where you go. They're the best.
they're like telling you, and it's date night, and you're like, yeah, honey, there's a 2 hour wait. Is like, and then you see like nine other restaurants looking at you like you're at the puppy mill. You can eat right now. You can eat right now. We'll give you the best table. We'll give you any table. We'll throw in an appetizer. People are like, all right, let's grab a drink somewhere, and if we really can't eat like an hour and a half from right now, let's go to one of these places that's looking at us like a puppy mill, right? So that
Yeah.
one is like packing the calendar up. The second thing is actually always showing people. That's why, like in the interview series, I'm gonna like, how do you evaluate good product design? You always want to give two options. Like, okay, I was a part of, can I give you two examples? Like, I was a part of two projects recently. One we were evaluating for this, and we use this methodology. One we were evaluating for this,
Hmm.
we use this methodology. Um, is there a better example of something that you of a product design that you guys are trying to evaluate right now that I can provide input? Or like,
Hmm.
how would you go ahead and run A/B tests? Or like, how would you go ahead and write a product requirements document? How do you write
Hmm.
product requirements documents? Like, well, it really depends on the engineer that I'm working with, right? So ultimately, it's for you guys. So for one engineer, I wrote the PRD this way for her when she went on maternity leave, and somebody else took over. He wanted it done completely differently, and I wrote it this way for him. Ultimately, what's going to save us time is if I write the PRD the way that you want to see it. So you're always giving,
Yeah.
you always want to show flexibility in all of it. Those are all signals and indicators of like versatility.
Hmm.
And then the other thing here is, the other thing is also having the empathy on the interview with the person of like, you know, right now nobody's really looking for product managers as much as they're looking for product therapists. So it's like, how have you been doing this entire time, right? Jordan Tucker on the testimonials, I think he's like way down. He was great person to reference. Terry McIlvaney, he was a great person to go ahead and reference. But like just simple questions like how have you been doing throughout this entire time, right? That's actually what we talk about here at the Product Gym program. Is like, yo, people are calling us feeling like crap about the market, and it's like, yo, you're trying to pull $7,000 cash money from me. You know, I'm like not working right now. Yeah, it's like it's if you looked at it in any other logical way, people are like, how do you guys even have this conversation? But people are coming out on the other side. They're like, it 100% makes sense. Like, let me go ahead and get this thing started right now because I want to go ahead and do this. People
Hmm.
always put money in value because living in like New York, it was funny. You'll have somebody that's just like, I was like, it kind of hit me when I saw somebody that was just like, I'm laid off, and then like, I saw them at the Taylor Swift concert, and I was like,
What?
at like, I was like at the box, and they're like, I was like, what are you doing here? He's like, well, what are you doing here? He's like, I have a job. I'm gainfully employed in an industry that's on the rise during this time of turmoil. But you, on the other hand, my friend, are not. You just been laid off. Your industry's under attack. So what are you doing here, right? But that's what
Yeah.
I realized, especially like now that I'm so much more active on Instagram. People will always go ahead and put money in value. So when people see value, they're going to go to HR and say, like, no, we need to lock this person down right now. I cannot
Mhm.
risk somebody taking this person off of the market. That's why the Jordan Tucker, let me go ahead and pull this up for you on the side while I go out there
Mhm.
and find him. It was his interview really gave everybody in the program a huge boost because so one of his kids caught COVID or like got sick. And like for
Mhm.
anybody that has kids, they know when one kid gets sick, like all the other kids at school get sick, and when one kid gets sick, everybody else gets sick in the house. It's
Mhm.
unavoidable. For the three, this was like he was so happy with the program for the reason for that reason was that's him right here. He actually led like a whole training. He was like, they checked in with me all 2 weeks while I was completely out. Like, are you still interviewing? Are you still interviewing? Like we would love to go ahead. Like, and I was like, yeah, if you have really good value, and he was transitioning in from a teacher's background, like a
Hmm.
background,
Hmm.
right? So if you
Yeah.
see really good value in something, you're gonna want like the motivation, I think, has been like huge piece. When you're motivated
Yeah.
for something, you're always gonna be you're always gonna go out there and get on it. Like I never liked waking up for school in the morning, but like I
Mhm.
never had a problem waking up at 5 a.m. in the morning for Saturday morning cartoons. Uh you know, like now that we are, the second part of our mission has been helping people become product manager, from product managers become product management influencers. People are like
Mhm.
so much more pumped up about their job hunt because they're like, okay, I'm gonna monetize my job hunt, right? It's a different mentality. So if you're number one, asking if you have less onboarding time,
Mhm.
and number two is you can demonstrate that you can go ahead and add value to the problem. But you're also demonstrating that you have a proven track record of learning new skills quickly and that you can be versatile and you're not being desperate, right?
Mhm.
And which kind of shows your versatility aspect of it. And the other thing is like they feel like you actually care about their overall well-being and mental health instead of just somebody that's trying to pull another job. What we found in our track record of being able to, this is why like, you know, I get so many DMs on IG that's like, you're constantly flex. I was like, who else is getting people multiple offers? But you got to think about it. Like, if I am gonna spend less time onboarding you, I feel like you give a shit about me. And I
Yeah.
feel like this person here gives us the best chance of getting another quarter. And they can be versatile. They're not going to be difficult to work with. I would actually like to hang out with. I would enjoy seeing them on a Zoom call. Why wouldn't they
Yeah.
hire you? Because like on the hiring side, they're doing all these interviews right now, and it's just red flag, red flag, red like no, 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 no. These are the reasons why they're saying no. Like when we used to host all the
Yeah.
classes pre-COVID, it was just hilarious because the number one topic during the lunchtime was just about dating. And it was just like,
Oh yeah, I
yeah,
heard that
like
on the
yeah,
recording.
yeah. And it was just like hilarious because we have in New York so many finance bros that take our program. And they're like, like it's hilarious because like every single cohort, they'll just be like, you know, she doesn't really care about your Patagonia vest and how much money you make. It's like, because if she actually cared about how much, like you can't be making no money, but like if you saying like, yeah, I'm a third year at JP Morgan, like then you wouldn't be complaining about it, right? Like you should be getting blown up. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like really
It's
hilarious, right? Because
it's
you
like that song,
looking for a man in
Looking for a Man
finance,
in Finance,
trust
Trust Fund.
fund, trust fund, blue eyes. It's totally true. It's not wrong. But you'd go out there, you'd go out there just to hang around in the city, and you'd see that, um, you just see the body language just slowly tuning off and just going into the stratosphere of like, yeah, so I know I get the impression, but like I work at Goldman, and the guy would just be going on a brag rant. I'm looking at my watch. The guy's been like talking straight for like 17 minutes. And this girl's like, oh my gosh, I told myself I wouldn't do this shit again, but he looked like he was gonna be different.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, but that's the overall thing is number one, minimize the onboarding time. Okay, because you're
yeah.
really overworked right now. So number one is
Hmm.
okay, what do you anticipate to be the most difficult part or the most time-consuming aspect of onboarding the next product manager hire? Number one. Number two, I would, and in no particular order, keep it like conversational because, mind you, hiring managers are looking for a job too. So they're watching these videos and they're coming into these programs. But it's freaking hilarious that even though we are live streaming all of this and I get hiring managers saying, I just interviewed one of your people, people are still violating these rules just like because like people are like on the comments are like that's all you had to do to get a job here. There's literally girls on
Yeah.
IG and TikTok are like it's not that difficult. Talk about do you have hobbies? Do you do anything else other than work? Did you take a foreign language class when you're in school? Or were you just a pure econ major? It's not difficult. She's like secretly hoping that's the last freaking date she needs to go on. You know, what is wrong with like, they have Reddit threads of like, are we dating the same guy? They're like, it's not difficult, right? They're like, okay, like, what do you think is the most time-consuming part about the onboarding process? Is there
Yeah.
the 2 week period before I start the job? Is there anything I could do to get ahead of it so you don't have to do it? I had so many comments that were just like,
Yeah.
you're sitting there for 2 weeks doing jack shit, nothing. Yeah, it would be a huge selling point for it's like, can you read up on this? Were when we had that one year, I was just like, people were like, yeah, if you guys would just read up on something in GDPR because we are in Europe, that would be tremendous.
Mhm.
Instead of you like going on LinkedIn for the next 2 weeks responding to comments like, I've officially taken the green sash off. I'm no longer. If you could read that, if you could come in hitting the ground running, that would be extremely attractive to me because I'm really overworked.
Mhm.
We're not giving away top secret information. So what do
Yeah.
you feel like are gonna be is gonna be the most time consuming part about onboarding the next product manager hire here? What do you feel like is gonna be
Mhm.
the most difficult aspect of the job to grasp? Is there anything that
Mhm.
you feel the product manager hire, 2 weeks prior while you guys are doing background checks, right? That could read up on, could get a head start on that would make your life easier instantly
Yeah.
like thank you. Thank you.
I did not ask any of those questions like during that those series of interviews because well I didn't know. I didn't know to ask that. The last interview though I did ask a really good question, but it also kind of nailed in the fact that maybe I wasn't the best fit because they are very safe heavy, like very safe, like safe agile frameworks. And I haven't done safe and I didn't know the particulars of safe for some of the questions. And so since then I'm getting certified in safe for product manager and product owner. But I think having that, knowing that lingo, like the language and the different things that I should know how to do being safe, agile, like, yeah, I'm gonna do really well if they ever reach out to me again or if I interview for another safe, like, kind of software team.
Got
But
it. Okay, so let's talk about adding. So let's talk about because I was like being a history major, I like to think about things chronologically. Okay, so let's talk about the second problem here, which is like how do you add value to the problem? How do you stand out from the competition? And like the other thing here is also like how do you replicate or how do you demonstrate competency in an area that you don't have any expertise in? Okay, number one, you need to go back to the question, what was it about my background that stood out to you guys so much that prompted you to schedule a call? Clearly, right
mm,
now, if we're just being honest, Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's so much talent out there. You guys can honestly get anybody you guys want. You guys
Yeah.
like there's meta PMs right now that like companies are getting for at a discount. So you guys are getting Porsches and Ferraris at Honda prices right now. Okay. It's a fact. There's an overwhelming supply compared to demand on the buy side, but yet you still decided, and we're all overworked AF, and yet you still decided to take 35 minutes out of your day to interview me, which is going to take you
Mm-hmm.
2 hours to get your bandwidth and your focus back. So clearly, there was something about my background that stood out to you. What is it? You need to figure out your product market fit. Now, the
Yeah.
other thing here is I clearly don't have this background. So tell me, like, you know, what's the problem that you guys are trying to solve? Because if you don't have a safe background, because the people with a safe background, they love spelling it, especially in the right lowercase and uppercase to demonstrate that, like,
Oh
I'm.
yeah, I could tell. Like I could tell from one of the guys in particular in the final interview who was asking me all the safe questions that that was something that really made him feel confident about himself. Like I do safe. Like
I do
this
say,
is
okay,
yeah.
so this is how you really hack demonstrating competency in an area where you don't is number one is you own it. And then number two is you want to talk about other skills that they've had to go out there and develop for the sake of this business. And what are
Hmm.
other skills that they are looking to learn right now? In the span of 6 months, product managers learn a lot of skills. And especially like in the past 2.5 years, product managers have had to learn a lot of new skills that they never thought they even had to pick up just due to reduction in headcount. And there's definitely skills that they're learning right now that, like, in the process of them interviewing you, they are developing new skills. And there's
Hmm.
another batch of skills that's coming down the lane, depending on the possible 300 to 300 directions that the company can go into, where they're going to be looking at learning those skills, right? And the product managers that have been staying on the job has really learning how to learn is also a skill in itself. So you need to sell the learning how to learn more, and you need to puncture into also, listen, I don't have this background, but in my previous history, there was a lot of other types of skills and backgrounds that I did not have, and this is actually how
Hmm.
I learned it. You need to focus more on what is your learning methodology. Also talk to them about, and then you have to get them to do a paradigm shift, which is like, what's your methodology in like learning new skills, and what new skills are you learning right now that you feel like is going to be really relevant to the business? Because
Hmm.
safe is something that you can go ahead and learn, and it's not
Hmm.
something that is difficult to learn. But you also want to focus more on like what skills are you learning right now? I've actually had to learn a lot about. I'm currently doing my Pendo certification. We unfortunately had to drop our data analyst, and I've had to, I came in from more of a sales, customer success background into product management. Now I have to learn how to put together these charts. Okay, I can help out with that because I actually have, I already got my Pendo certification, right? So if you don't have the skills, you cannot reasonably develop a certification for every skill that you don't have. And if you don't
Yeah.
have a skill, the paradigm shift is not like, I don't have the skills, so I'm going to go out there and get the skills. Is like, you have to get them to do that one paradigm shift of like, if you don't have this skill, well, there's a lot of skills I'm sure, not as combative as I'm even saying it right now, but there's a lot of skills I'm pretty sure you don't even have.
Hmm.
So what are you learning right now? Because the problems that they're focusing on right now are going to be much more revealing as to what types of problems the company is currently going through. So if you have some additional, like, oh shit. So it doesn't even occur to you to go ahead and think this way, but so the skills that I'm trying to learn right now, she already has. So that means I don't have to learn those skills.
Yeah.
Now
It
that's a
was
yeah.
interesting. Like in the final interview, I asked them, what is the most or the biggest value you would see in the person you choose for this role to bring to the company? Like, what is that value? And they said they want that individual to bring the company from 20% safe agile practices to 80% safe agile practices. So I'm like, okay,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, if that's the conversation that we're having, then so that's more along the lines of like doing process and training documentation, right? And that's something that nobody likes to go ahead and do. So the thing is, you got to find advantage. This is actually why I always tell people pack up as much interviews as possible because you start developing the interview muscle of selling yourself like on the spot. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
you don't have the safe background as you can imagine, but maybe, and I'm just speaking hypotheticals here, you did notice that I have a process and training documentation background. And that's one task that a lot of product managers don't want to take. I mean, who the hell wants to go ahead and document processes? That's like
I like it. That's one of my favorite things to
that's
do.
what you got to go ahead. Like if you left it up to me, I would kill myself. It's actually something that like as business owners, we're constantly like trying to delegate more of our job to. And it's just
Mm-hmm.
like it's I procrastinate on that thing like hard, and I know a lot of other startup founders do, but in order to remove yourself from it, you gotta like make sure the other people like do it. And people don't always do it right, so you gotta like follow up. But then it's like you always come into the thing about oh, I might as well just do it myself. But like it eventually has to go down to somebody else. So
Mm-hmm.
those are also things that you want to go ahead and actually focus on is like in the moment of you getting actual interviewed, you don't think about all the different angles that you can do because
Mm-hmm.
you don't have enough reps. But like when you actually get more reps, it
Mm-hmm.
becomes kind of easier and you make the interview flow a little bit more conversational. Like this one lady was like, well, like I remember she really tried to trap me at a live event. She said, what if you really dumb questions like, um, I don't get to do enough product like what if they ask you some really dumb question like what do you hate the most about product management? I was like, that's an actual interview question. She's like, I got that thing right before I came in here. I was like, well, okay, what I would say is says I don't get to do well, hang on. What I hate about product management the most is I don't get to do enough product management. She's like, that's a fluff question. That's a fluff answer. I was like, no. I was like, let me go ahead and explain. So what I hate the most about product management is I actually spend 80% of my week explaining to people that are not product managers and don't know what product management is, exactly what product managers do and what product management is. I only get 20% of my week to actually do real product management. Is anybody in this room disagree with me that that's not the week of a product manager? And everyone's like, yeah, it sounds kind of correct.
So
Like,
true.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like she's like, yeah, it's actually a pro. I was like, I'll tell you this, I pulled that answer straight out of my ass right now. And I've never been a product manager before. I was like, but I have a decent understanding of what you guys do just because like I've been recruiting for product managers. So think of me as kind of the pharmaceutical rep.
Yeah, for product manager.
that gets to I talk to doctors all day. I hang out in doctors' offices all week, but like I'm not an actual doctor, you know. But like it's true. That's what recruiters that's what they told us. We were like pharmaceutical because we would go to different like offices, right? And be like, hey, so but the more that you interview, the easier that you're gonna take the pressure off of yourself when you're really stressed out. Like they're gonna go ahead
Mm-hmm.
and feel the stress. And that's been
Mm-hmm.
kind of the secret of like product managers that they take the qualitative, they take the qualitative approach. And I was like, well, if you take the qualitative approach, the entire intention is that you don't want to get a job and work a job that you don't enjoy. You don't want to do work that you don't find meaningful. But the reality is, they also don't want to hire somebody that's just going to be another dud. And there's always like more crap talent than there are good talent. So,
Mm-hmm.
different ways that you can engage the product manager interview, you feel more free to do so when, I mean, like you feel more free to do so if you have more leverage, and that leverage comes from your interview pipeline. As long as you're feeling good, like Elon Musk right now, the Tesla stock just tanked. I don't think he's losing any sleep over that because I'm talking about it, my office is at the White House right now. Like what do you think this is my only business? Like like, I got like 20 other companies. And I got senators offering to buy me lunch every single day, so I don't ask them. So I don't go out there and defund an agency that they're chairing right now, right? Uh,
Hmm.
so like that gives you like a sense of power. But overall, like I've been putting up the same content for like the last 8 years, and this is what I told people to do when I was a recruiter back in California. And I've always told people to do this, like it's just like dating, because that's what I realized. It clicked for me. I was just like, because we'd have like a few tables worth of like the girls would always sit like in one like a one side of the classroom, the guys would, and the conversations that they were having on the Saturday class is what they're doing after this. And it just kind of hit me where it's just like, it's actually not complicated. You have direct user feedback 3 feet away from you. So you guys might as well just start sitting over there and start getting some actual, like, you know, intelligence that you guys can actually, take action on. But on the hiring side, we've had a lot of hiring managers. I mean, I had pre Elon Musk acquisition, I had the VP of product at Twitter come here and do a live one in San Francisco. He's like, it's not difficult to get a job here. And I was like, let me ask you this. Have you guys ever rejected and turned away experienced and qualified product management talent? I say all the time. I was like, have you guys also hired underqualified and inexperienced product management talent or first time product managers that did not have the titles all the time? I was like, what's the difference? He's like, the vibe,
Hmm.
right? He's like,
Wow.
you come in here desperate. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of where the framework actually come in from. He's like, what's it like with you at like, you want to hire people that you feel like is going to ultimately make your life easier, right?
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
people will always pay more for value. And he's
Hmm.
like, so the minute that the interaction that we're getting, the overall, like, if you feel desperate, like, we don't want to hire you. If you come in here,
Yeah.
we don't want to work with you. If you're not coming in here prepared, but like, if you don't have the empathy of like, yeah, um, things change. He's like, that's one of the hardest things about hiring for San Francisco is like, you'd go from round one, two, three, four, and it's like the job evolves because the market was evolving while you were interviewing. And they're like, you would talk to San Francisco talent. That's actually why we truck so much New York people over the Bay Area. I had this one event where all five product managers I came out to talk was in the physical classroom in New York, and they took Bay Area jobs away from people that were already in the Bay Area, and
Hmm.
they paid for like these people's like relocation and everything.
Hmm.
And he's like, it's not difficult. Like he's like, you interview Bay Area talent. You're like, hang on, but you guys said you guys were looking for this person. Like, yeah, and then the market changed, and then now we're looking for this person. You got a problem with it, and we need to stop talking, right? And but my own bias is East Coast product manager versus West Coast product manager. I just feel like East Coasters, they definitely are a little bit more like mentally tough, and
Yeah.
emotionally resilient. But you
Yeah.
know, going into your next interview, I'm gonna be creating this like massive checklist is like you go in there, number one question, and like ask like you actually give a shit, right? Like, okay, how's everything going on? Like like the multiple offers, they're there. They're not just taking one, they're like taking it at will right now. Is like, how are you doing coping around with this whole crazy market and everything? Shit. Yeah, like
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of PMs have also a lot of people that's been working, they've been divorce rate has shot up just due to financial stress during this time, right? Uh,
Hmm.
So yeah, dude, like two of my instructors went through a divorce. So you have that.
Yeah.
So ask
Hmm.
them like, how are you doing? Okay, perfect. So I saw in the job description that you guys were looking for this type of person, safe background, safe heavy. I clearly don't have that background. What was it about my background that stood out to you so much that prompted you to go ahead, schedule a call with
Hmm.
me? I think that's been like another big one. The third one is like another big one that you want to go ahead and actually ask is like, okay, so what's the problem that we're trying to solve right now? And how do you feel like the product manager can add value to it? I would love to know, is there anything that I could do to get ahead, or the next product manager can do? And that's just kind of like this even right now, like that's kind of like an overall preference, like I could do, or like the
Mhm.
next product managers. Like some people, if you could pull it off, saying like, what do you think I could do if you were to hire me? Uh,
Mhm.
I don't know if you noticed there's like that deviation too, like in this past election with Donald Trump. He's like, and if I'm elected your president again, like 20 years ago when Bill Clinton was running, they would always just say, as your next president. Like it's like now it's like
Uh-huh.
people are like,
Implying like,
right, it's like people like it a little bit more humble now. So they're like, so if you were to hire me as your next product manager, what do you feel like I could do during that 2 week span where I'm about to start? Like, what is it that you feel like I can read up on, or like I can get a head start on to make your life easier on the onboarding process?
mm,
And
mhm.
I imagine things have been changing quite quickly in the space. The whole industry is. Where do you feel like what are some additional skills that you're learning right now, or you feel like the next product manager should be learning to kind of just stay for our team to just stay relevant and competitive in the marketplace? Yeah.
Yeah.
Other things that you should also ask during the interview process is also, who do you feel like are our top competitors, or who do you feel like that's kind of like a more obvious one? What are other companies in other verticals that you feel like, wow, we should be them in our space that you're looking at, kind of like as a market leader that I should study, that you feel like,
Mhm.
because when all these other companies are trying to launch their own apps, they were looking at more client-facing apps like Spotify and Airbnb that's like direct to consumer, right? Uh,
Mhm.
Nobody is, because we got somebody a job at Bloomberg, and I was like,
Mhm.
and they're like, I don't think anybody's waking up and the first app they're clicking on their iPhone is Bloomberg. Like usually, like for me, first app I'm
Yeah.
clicking on when I'm waking up in the morning is Instagram, and then I go
Mhm.
straight to like YouTube. And then I go to Slack and see all the things that went wrong while I was in bed, and then I go and then I go to Gmail, but like things like that, and most importantly, like in no particular order, have fun with it. And I would say like a bonus question that's very revealing is, in this marketplace right now, with the number of candidates that are out in the marketplace, you guys can kind of take your pick and whoever it is that you want. What's been the most difficult part in filling this role? Because I imagine this is not the best use of
Mhm.
your time doing interviews. So it's like, this person's actually
Mhm.
asking some like good, good questions, right? Like, there was like some kid that was like interviewing this like college basketball coach recently on ESPN. And he's like, coach, he's like, I want to be a reporter someday, and I thought I'd start today. Um, like one question I wanted to ask you was like, he's like, do you think it's more important to have the mindset or the technical ability in being a good basketball player? And he's like, first of all, kid, I want to say that is a very good question. Because I've been doing this for a very long time. That is a very good question. Instead of like, at what point did you guys realize you guys were going to lose the game, right? Like hiring managers, I've had so many people come on the podcast where they're just like, I would just love it if we could have a collage of the dumbest questions I was asked. Like, what do you like about being a product manager here? I actually don't like being a product manager here. If it wasn't for the paycheck, I wouldn't be a product manager. I wouldn't be working at all. I don't know why. I had this one guy just go off on like, those are like really bad. Like, what do you enjoy? Like, no, ask better questions. Like, so what do you hate the most about your job? And how do you feel like the next product manager can help out? What would you rather
Mhm.
do with your
Mhm.
time if you weren't a product manager? Because I feel, those are great questions to go out there and ask. Those are questions that get people jobs. Like,
Yeah.
what would you rather be doing? Um, and I've actually
Like,
said, yeah.
yeah, I was just gonna say, I like kind of like the examples that you're giving of questions I could ask because it's already putting myself in a position, like they're not putting me in a position, but I'm putting myself in a favorable position to kind of show like how I'm going to benefit the team even before I join, but like it's showing them like I'm already thinking about you guys, like as if I am on the team. So
100%. And then now
yeah.
you're talking to them like you're already on the team. If
Hmm.
like I don't get on a call. I don't train my admissions team to talk to people and selling them a program here. We talk to them as if they're already in the program here. So it just makes it easier for them to join the program here, right?
Hmm.
So like when you're actually talking to them, like we have testimonials, Spotify, Airbnb, Netflix, Hulu. I showed you the Hulu one, right? And I was like,
Hmm.
if you're good enough to make it in there, it's freaking hilarious. I've already said this shit out in public so many times, and I've actually been showing it to people. Like almost every product manager at Spotify loves music. Like half the time, I was like, just look at that bros. Just look at that bros LinkedIn profile and just IG search him. I almost bet my Bitcoin that they're a DJ on the weekends. And people were like, yeah. And I was like, can't make this shit up. Airbnb. I did for Friendsgiving, the Airbnb. My friend, her husband is a product manager over there at Airbnb. I was like, how to buy a real estate property, no money down. I was like, every product manager at Airbnb secretly wants to just own a bunch of like little rentals and then never work again. Never ever
Oh, I
work,
bet. Yeah.
right? All the like you saw like Disney Plus, and I was like, I was a film miner. I was like, if you just take a look at their LinkedIn profile, screenwriting major, film miner. I was like, they were people that, probably loved shows like Entourage, wasn't gonna be on the actual talent side of like being an actor, actress. Definitely did not have the emotional stamina to withstand the toxic of like working with an Ari Gold or
Hmm.
talent management, but it doesn't take away from the fact that they love films. I mean, I still love. I mean, that's what I would have done. I mean, when we sell this thing, I'll just be getting a master's and PhD in film and history. Um, so I was like, people are like, really? I was like, you think I wake up and think roadmaps and that gets me up out of bed? Like, I mean, get out of here. This is a job. You know, I mean, for most of these people, it's a job. One of our best LinkedIn messages, like, are you going skiing or snowboarding this weekend? And a lot of people have been responding. So I guess that like human factor, which has also hit because one of my
Yeah.
friends is like finishing up med school, and they've
Hmm.
been asking like she's been getting like she's been like kind of documenting that journey on YouTube as like because everybody's on the influencer rack right now. And people have been asking like, well, how did you get your residency like in New York? Like, because like so many people they have to like like I've heard people had to like go to like New Orleans, like yuck, not to bash on New Orleans, but like just leaving like the city behind. Like the only real draws that you're gonna save money or like going to like a Denver or going to like, like the cities that are not gonna attract are not going to be as attractive, but like their main draw is basically that the med school there, right? Or like where you can do
Hmm.
residency. She's like,
Hmm.
well, easy is like, well, like present yourself as a person. You're working like 18-hour, 20-hour shifts. So present yourself as somebody that I would like to see in the hallways or like I would like to eat a germ packed lunch with. I would like to go ahead and be like, we got another gunshot wound victim, GSW. Right. Like, so, you have people that obviously did very well academically in their entire life, and then they have a lot of certainty in that. And it's just like, now I got to get this, like how to like they're navigating uncertainty and they're very uncomfortable with that. And they're thinking, well, maybe I don't really want to work with a person like that because I'm very stressed out enough. That's actually another thing too, is like most people on the hiring side, they're as stressed out as you guys are actually on the interview as well, because nobody right now, like I mentioned, nobody feels like people are as numb to getting laid off right now. They're actually kind of welcome it because they're like, okay, I can finally get you. Wasn't that crazy about this job anyways? Like as they're seeing like planes are going down, it's not stopping me from getting on a flight to Hong Kong this weekend, which is where I'm headed for a little weekend trip. But yeah, like these planes, like that was like that flight that went upside down in Toronto. That was like from Minneapolis. Like you're talking short local 3 hour flights. We're not talking like transatlantic, trans-Pacific. You're talking about like short duration flights, and people are like, holy, like, and people rant about it, but they're like on TikTok saying like, I'm about to get on, like, it's not stopping ticket sales, right? So if you
Hmm.
come at them a little bit more, or definitely rewatch this video, definitely I would say
Yeah.
practice with like mock interview partners. That's
I
why.
think I need to reach out. Like, I need to reach out in the group and see if anyone wants to do any with me. Because I haven't done that yet. But just like post in there, like, does anyone want to do mock interviews with me? Especially like other product managers too. That's really helpful to kind of hear their professional perspective or like if they have any feedback too. Yeah.
100%. So like, and it's just like gets you like a little bit more comfortable. And sometimes people do tell me like, well, it's like, I'm mock interviewed with somebody that wasn't as talkative. It's like, you're gonna interview with some product managers that do not like to talk. So like
Hmm.
like good mock interview partners are not indicative of like what it's going to be like in the real thing. So it's like getting that like kind of like that experience in there, because the more you're only really about like 50 to 70 mocks away from getting really good at the interview process. So
Yeah.
if you have like a target number, you can just focus on that.
Yeah.
But questions before we go ahead and wrap it up?
I don't think so. Hopefully you covered everything that you needed to do, and you wanted to cover in this video outside of my question. But you did a good job of answering my question. So,
You're always just one application, one interview away from like taking your job, right? And like that's actually what I want to go out there and let people know is you're always only just one application, one interview away from taking your job. And that's actually why I run such a transparent shop, is it kind of clicked for me. Like so many things, like it'll just click for me while like I'm just like observing human behavior. That whole dating convo, when I was like running all this, all like, I was like, I've been doing this for, we started the business like 2016, 17, 18, 19. It wasn't until like March 2020 that we went full remote because of COVID. But
hmm.
I was like, I've been hearing this shit every Saturday for like the past 5 years. And the direct feedback was literally like 20 feet away from you guys. There's no, so I was like, we've been making the same YouTube videos for 8 years. And we have hiring managers on the podcast, on my podcast, like What Bad Economy. They're just like saying the same shit. They're like, that's why companies like they reach out because they're like, your people like actually get it. But
Hmm.
like, but it's like when I'm on the call, I don't want to be there. I got a ton of shit to do. I have a ton of shit going on back home. I have other things outside of my home. Like there's the me, like my home life is not my life.
Taxes.
Right. There's like
Yeah,
taxes.
filing the taxes.
Right. Like they're like, there's all this other shit that's going on, right? All I'm looking for right now, they're like, it's very simple. Somebody I don't really have to kill myself onboarding. Somebody that like I can go out there and work with. Things change up. I don't have to deal with, because it's like an extra, because they're already getting pushback from the engineering teams like, oh man, we spent all week working. Like, yo, what was I doing? I wrote that one PRD and I was like, deuces. Like I was working on that thing all week too, but we're going in a different direction right now. And that's like, if you guys don't want to go there, I mean, I guess somebody else is coming with us. Like you guys can get off the bus, and we have to pick few people up on the way there. So that's just
Yeah.
other person that they have to deal with pushback with. Um,
Hmm.
and then just like, how are you doing? Honestly, like shit. Like 100%. Somebody just took an offer today. She was like, that was it. That lady was like, yep. Honestly, if I what you really want to, because like it's an American thing, right? People ask like, "How are you doing?" They don't really say anything. It's like, "Do you really want to know?" It's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." Like, So, my boyfriend, he's a software engineer. He hasn't been working for 4.5 months, so I never thought I'd be the sole breadwinner, but I guess right now I am. Uh,
Oh no.
yeah, right. She kind of went on that rant, and then, yeah, yeah, they recommended. They said they're they're like, I think, I don't even think we actually need to do a case study. So I'm going to recommend you to go to the final round and I like talking to you today, actually. And then yeah, so if you give, I mean, think about it, that's what therapy really is, right? They feel they have a really good
Mhm.
time chatting with you, and then when things get good, it's like time's up because my next patient is actually in the hallway. They notified me that person's there. People love talking about like their unhappiness with life. It's therapeutic. So if you're
Yeah.
offering them a
Hmm.
therapeutic experience instead of like, I'm coming in here, I can solve all these problems. Like, okay,
Yeah.
what if the problem changes? Then you get friend zoned.
Hmm.
Because like, well, last week we were talking about implementing AI, but like this week they say they want to do a subscription model. So, and I don't know anything about subscription models, so that means I got to study subscription models right now, right? Really not looking forward to that shit this weekend. But then they're gonna have to like rack up a bunch of YouTube videos. They're gonna have to kind of watch that, maybe buy some books on Amazon, study that, utilize
Hmm.
ChatGPT. Another great question to ask. I just thought about it right now. Like, is there anything you're trying to learn right now? I'm pretty sure you don't really have the time to. Maybe I can do that for you. That's also been a huge seller. So it's not difficult to avoid the friend zone. It's actually not difficult to stand out. Where people start getting clipped is when they pretend like they know everything, and it's just
I
like,
think
yeah,
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 that. I
yeah,
think that's kind of what happened because I mean, I wanted to come off like I did know what I was talking about, but I was also clear, like, yeah, I haven't exactly worked in safe, like maybe a version of safe, definitely agile, but similar enough, I felt like. And yeah, I didn't, yeah, I should have looked at it before the interview as just like, okay, I haven't done safe and just said that at the beginning of the interview. Like just putting it out there. And then asking them that question, like, what stood out about me, basically. Yeah.
go. There you go. Well, that
Yeah.
said, great call. I will see you on next week's call, and then
Yeah.
let's get it. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Have a good night.
I will.
All
Bye.
right. Bye.